Hey friends, I know that videos are usually Ryan's thing, but I thought that I would share with you the perspective of a grieving loved one, of somebody who has been diagnosed with ALS. We hear a lot of stories about people receiving their diagnosis, the journey that they've gone through, like Ryan has shared multiple times, but we haven't heard too much from the perspective of people who are grieving or who have received that news that their loved one has a terminal illness. And I think it's really important that, we're aware of what that is like for the people who are caring for their pals, their, person living with ALS. And so I really just wanted to, share my journey with you and what it was like in the beginning and what it was like throughout the whole process and how things are now, just over a year after Ryan lost his battle to ALS. So yeah, I guess I'll start at the beginning. And I was 23 years old and so confused when I got this message from my brother telling me about his diagnosis of ALS. Throughout the year prior, it was me opening up, his 23-year-old sister opening up his water bottle for him and helping him up the stairs, and, recognizing when we are walking through the sand that he was tired, or going to the mall and watching him drag his foot. We went through this process of having no idea what was going on. And so when he talked to me about his diagnosis, it was more of a, this is what they say, but I think that it must be Lyme disease or mercury poisoning, or, when someone receives a terminal illness, I can only imagine, obviously I don't have that experience, but I can only imagine that you're searching for any and every piece of hope that you have to prove that you don't have this, that you aren't going to die, that there is some type of treatment or some type of cure, that obviously there isn't with ALS right now. And I remember as soon as, Ryan told me about his diagnosis, the first thing I did was Google, which I'm kind of glad I did, because ALS is a disease that I didn't have much knowledge on previously, and most people really don't. But at the same time, that is when my grieving began. I think that, it's hard because as soon as you Google something like that, with me, it was the first thing I Googled it, saw, okay, well, this is something that should be happening to people that are at least halfway through their lives, right? So how could this be happening to my brother who's, 29 years old? It just doesn't make any sense. So I start Googling, ALS in your 20s, and I come across a blog that is, this young lady posted in there, I was diagnosed with ALS at 28. I don't know if it's real. Has anybody else experienced this before? Just kind of, she was seeking help. And I made the mistake of Googling her name after reading her blog post to see, what her journey has been like. And 6 months after she posted in the forum, there was an obituary for her. And I think that seeing this young lady was asking for answers and asking, I'm 28, do I really have this disease? And then 6 months later, seeing that, she had clearly lost her battle to that disease, that was heartbreaking for me, because, you, from the time you're younger, and my brother and I were extremely close. We did everything together. We went to the movies together. He took me to get his hair cut with him. He tricked me into washing his car all the time. We really grew up doing everything together, taught me how to drive, taught me how to climb trees. So how is it that this is happening to someone I love so deeply? How is it that, I plan my life around him being in it, and that includes, you know, him standing next to me at my wedding. That includes us having children, and that can be cousins, and we can all come together like we do with our cousins right now. And it's so hard at that time to think, holy shit, this is not going to happen anymore, you know? And I think that, you know, your grieving really starts there, and you think it can't get worse than this. You know, my grieving is starting now. It lasts for, you know, you have this really hard time, right? You're in shock. You're in this panic mode of, I'm losing this person who is the most important person in my life and my role model and my, you know, biggest confidant. And so you go through this stage of like, holy shit, and then you kind of jump on that denial train, right? And you like, no, he's right, it must be mercury poisoning, it must be Lyme disease. And then as time goes on, you start to realize like he's losing muscle mass, and he's embarrassed to ask his little sister to help him put his socks on, or put his shirt on, or to take his jacket off, or put on his sunglasses. And it gets really hard, you know, like, and from his perspective, I can only imagine asking your little sister, the person that you've been protecting your whole life, to now almost switch roles and be someone to, you know, care for and protect you. So I guess like, yeah, like the first couple years were really hard. I lived in Southern California and flew up every other weekend to Sonoma to visit my brother and hang out and just chill. And you know, things start to become normal, and cutting up his food starts to become normal, and fastening his seatbelt starts to become normal. So you get into this almost routine of, this is just life now. And, you know, unfortunately / fortunately, I guess, you start to think, okay, well, this is life. And then the whole fact that like, it's terminal and that his life is going to end kind of just, it goes on the back burner for a little bit, right? So you get used to seeing him in a wheelchair, you get used to him needing to take puffs out of his breathing machine, you get used to having to, you know, put on and remove his mask when he needs extra oxygen. You just really get used to that life. And so when Ryan was nearing, you know, the end of his life, you're in this mode of thinking that you've accepted it, right? That you've gone through these stages of grief where you're now in this part of, you know, I've been grieving for 4 years, so I'm okay with this now, right? Like, I'm oddly comfortable in letting him pass and letting him go. And then it happens. And then afterwards you're like, holy shit, how am I still grieving after 4 years? How is it that I was grieving so much in the very beginning, and how is it that that's all restarting again? And I think that that's the hard thing, is that, you know, when someone gets diagnosed with a terminal illness, you start in your mind thinking, they're gone, right? Or they're going to leave this world, and I need to prepare for it. And so by the time they leave, you think like, of course I'm going to be prepared. Of course I'm going to be ready for something like this. And then you get kind of slapped in the face with like, no, like it's starting over now. And as much as I've come to peace with the fact that Ryan is no longer here physically, and I do feel him spiritually, you know, the battle isn't over. And I think that one of the hard things also about this disease is that you become friends with so many people, and, you know, people that are battling ALS, people who are supporting their families battling ALS, or their loved ones battling ALS. And you start to realize that you have now become part of this community that you were meant to be a part of. But that also comes with a lot of loss of friends, loss of new loved ones. And, you know, not only that, but then, you know, this community of also supporting each other. And I think that that's what's so important, is that, you know, we are all in this together. And from the very beginning, you aren't alone to think that I've grieved all this time. I don't get to grieve now. It doesn't make any sense to grieve now because I've already done that. It's okay. And I think that I'm slowly starting to realize that over a year later, that it's okay that I have been grieving for, 5 years now. And I just want to remind you guys that you're not alone, and that people need to also remember that this isn't just an older person's disease. This is not just a disease that takes the lives of people that have already lived, 50, 60, 70 years. This is a disease that is taking the lives of people that have their whole life ahead of them, who haven't met their life partner yet, who haven't had children, who haven't found their career, and I think that it's really important that we bring awareness to the fact that, I'm starting to realize that there are younger and younger and younger people that are going through this. And you read stories about Eric and Corey and my friend Sean and all of these younger men that, are going to have at some point a grieving family. And it's heartbreaking. And like I said, I just wanted to share my story from the perspective of somebody who lost their best friend and someone that they pictured to be in their lives forever, someone that, we were still growing together in our 20s when we got this news. And at that point, your life kind of goes on hold for a little bit to surround yourself with, thoughts of, where do I need to be in case I get a phone call, in case there's an emergency? Is he going to choke on something? Is he going to fall and nobody's there to pick him up? These are all things that we go through over this really long period of time. And then whenever they're gone, it's something that we're still, even though there is honestly like that kind of sense of freedom that they're no longer having to, be trapped in this body that's not mobile. There's also that freedom in knowing that you don't need to worry about them anymore because wherever they are being taken care of. And like I said, I wanted to create this video to create awareness of the fact that, we're grieving together from the very beginning, and we're a community, and we're forever going to be a community, and that you can reach out to me at any point, and I'm here to support you, whether it's the beginning of the journey, the middle of the journey, the end of what their life journey is, and the beginning of your re-grieving journey. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. And I know it's emotional, and I hope that I didn't upset too many people, but that is me being vulnerable and open. And yeah, I just want to let you know that I'm here to support you through this process in any way possible. All right, I love you, friends.